Pokemon X and Y are officially 10 years old. That is crazy to me as someone who grew up playing these games and playing other Pokemon games. The fact that the first pair of 3D Pokemon games on the 3DS are a decade old just makes me feel ancient. So today I wanted to do a video talking about Pokemon X and Y and specifically focusing on why I love these games so much. I adore Pokemon X and Y. I know they get a pretty bad reception online, and frankly, I don't know if a lot of that is really unjustified. I don't think these games are perfect, but coming at it from my perspective, I just adore these games, so I wanted to talk about it, kind of reminisce with you all about the reveals for this game and the game itself. So let's talk about Pokemon X and Y.
Pika, Pikachu! Pika, Pika! Pika, Pika! Pika, Pikachu!
January 8th, 2013 is a day that is ingrained in my memory because of this reveal trailer. I remember being, at this point I would have been 12 years old, I remember just being so excited. Black and White and Black and White 2, I think, are the best Pokemon games. Those are my personal favorites overall, I would say. So getting the next Pokemon game after that, of course, it's only up from there, right? And of course, the promise of it being on the 3DS. I remember, despite loving Black and White 2, which came out in October for America of 2012, despite loving that game, I was still disappointed it was on the DS. Even though I was playing on 3DS, I wanted that beefy kind of 3D Pokemon game, which is kind of funny looking back because the 3DS is so quaint compared to what we have now for handheld gaming. But I wanted that 3D Pokemon game, and I knew the next one after Black and White 2 had to be a 3DS game. So we got a Pokemon Direct on January 8th, and it was just such a wonderful trailer showing gameplay, showing new Pokemon, and showing the starters, of course. And that's what I really want to focus on first here, is just the hype cycle for Pokemon X and Y. Maybe it's that childlike wonder. Maybe it's just I was young and I hadn't experienced the proper, you know, announcement cycle, news cycle for a Pokemon game at that point. But I feel like Pokemon X and Y, there was something special about it. Every month there was exciting news. And I mean, Pokemon X and Y, of course, are games that added a brand new mechanic with Mega Evolution and Fairy typing. So it felt like just from January to October, there was constantly exciting new information coming out. Those first few months after the initial reveal maybe were a little bit slower, but I think it was in, I want to say April, we got the Mega Mewtwo Y reveal, but we didn't know it was Mega Mewtwo Y. We just saw this weird looking Mewtwo thing. People thought it was Mew 3. I specifically remember loving watching Dookie Shed's videos. He was a great Pokemon creator back then, and just that whole hype cycle and analyzing the trailers and figuring out what the new supposed type might be. A lot of people thought Yveltal might be a sound type Pokemon, and then eventually we saw Sylveon, and it was like, okay, well, this has to be like Fairy type or maybe Light type. A lot of people thought Xerneas would be Light type. And then another day I will not forget, actually I don't remember the exact day, but I remember in early August of 2013, Koro leaked. And before I get into that, I should say, I missed the Koro era of Pokemon. I understand that having the Pokemon Presents and having the trailers and directs or whatever it might be, and having it all handled like through live streams and stuff, I understand that that's a more efficient way to get information out about new Pokemon and just new information in general for Pokemon games. There was something really special about having Koro just leak and then seeing the images one day on Twitter. I know it's kind of lame, but honestly, it makes it really nostalgic for me, because the excitement I felt when I saw the August, or I guess it would have been the September issue of Koro leak in early August that revealed Mega Evolution, I was already extremely excited for the games. Like, I was already like, this was my most anticipated game ever. And the moment I saw Mega Lucario, bro, I think 12 or 13-year-old me freaking just popped off. Like, I could not believe what I was seeing. It looked like fan fiction. And I know some people don't like Mega Evolution, but I was just really excited to see Pokemon I love, like Mawile and Absol and Ampharos, get new evolutions. It's not a proper evolution, but it's this new Mega Evolution, and I don't know, to a kid that just sounds so cool and exciting. And I think the designs, personally, even today, I can look at all of those designs and say I think they are all incredible. And then yeah, the game released on October 12th. I pre-ordered it digitally on the 3DS eShop. I think I pre-ordered X digitally on the eShop, and then I got a physical copy of Y, and I think this might have been the longest I had ever stayed up in like one consecutive sitting playing a video game. I'm pretty sure I played it for actually 20 hours straight. I love this game, man. I was so excited for it. I think this would probably still be #1 in terms of my most anticipated game ever. I was so excited for Pokemon X and Y, and thankfully, I think it actually delivered on those expectations. So before we start talking about the actual game itself and Kalos and the characters and the story, let's talk about the new Pokemon. At the time, I remember thinking that the new set of Pokemon for Kalos was incredible, like at top tier, like some of the best. Looking back at it now, I can pick like a handful that I really like those are top tier designs, but overall I do think it's a bit of a more middling, honestly, region in terms of new Pokemon designs, but there are some that I really like. I have a couple that I listed down here. Delphox and Greninja, listen, I was there for Greninja day one, baby. I'm not one of these kids that got hyped on the Greninja train because of the anime. I love Greninja, I love Froakie the moment I saw Froakie. And Delphox, I think it's too much hate as well. Talonflame, I don't think Talonflame looks that good, but this was the first Pokemon game I ever got into any sort of competitive battling, and if you were playing X and Y competitive back in the day, you know that Talonflame with Gale Wings and Brave Bird was just stupid. Really just Gale Wings, Talonflame. It was just stupid. Talonflame was a stupid Pokemon, but I have an attachment to Talonflame because of that. Of course, you have Aegislash, Tyrantrum, Phantom, Bergmite. Those Pokemon are all iconic, and there are more that I'm not naming, but those are some of my favorites. Even Klefki, I think. I like those types of Pokemon. I like Chandelure. I don't know. I personally like those. I mean, we have over 1,000 Pokemon now. At this point, we had over 500 when this game came out. So, like, I'm okay with a couple of them just being objects. I really never understood that argument, bro. But there's so many Pokemon. Of course, we have my all-time favorite Pokemon. This is just my favorite Pokemon of all time, Goomy. Goomy's my boy. I don't like Goodra. I really don't like Goodra. Sligoo's pretty good, but Goomy is, I think, probably one of the best designed cute Pokemon ever, in my opinion. And then Xerneas and Yveltal, I think, were actually the last good mascot Pokemon for the box art legendaries, until Scarlet and Violet. I think Solgaleo and Lunala. Lunala's fine, Solgaleo's really boring, and the Sword and Shield Doggos are just really boring. So this was the last pair of just truly really good ones we got until Miraidon and Koraidon, so have to shout out that. Now, Yveltal is definitely cooler than Xerneas, but I like Xerneas too. So overall, I think I had a pretty great bunch of new Pokemon, though at the time, I definitely was higher on it than I am now looking back. I mean, what's going on with Heliolisk, Barbaracle, Carbink? There are definitely some weird Pokemon in here, and it was also a huge shift from Generation 5, where Generation 5 had 150 plus new Pokemon, and X and Y had I think 71 at the time of release, or maybe 79, somewhere around there. So it was a pretty big, drop in amount of Pokemon. So when there are stinkers like Carbink, which Carbink is fine, I don't actually hate Carbink. When there are stinkers, supposed stinkers, it just hits a little bit more because there are so few slots of new Pokemon in this game. Let's talk about Kalos itself. I think Kalos is something people always kind of draw their attention to when trying to criticize this game, and I've never really understood that. I think overall I can agree that modern 3D Pokemon region design is a step down from the pixel games, right? I do overall agree with that, but I feel like Kalos specifically gets targeted for some reason. Me personally, and I'm not trying to get a debate going in the comments right now, I'm not telling you that Kalos is better than this region or that region. This is just my opinion. I like Kalos more than Alola, and I like Sun and Moon. Those are great games, but I think Kalos has more, I don't know, there's something about Kalos, something about the cities. Lumio City, of course, needs no introduction, which is just Paris. But even other locations like Anastar City or even Geosinge Town, the town with all the rocks, I don't know, it's not as iconic as, I don't know, I mean, Unova is right there, and Diamond and Pearl, and I won't deny that maybe the previous regions before Kalos were better, but I don't think Kalos is worse than what has come after it. Kalos is definitely better than Galar and Paldea, and personally I would rank it above Alola, though I know that's probably a very controversial take. So yes, overall the quality of regions has gone down, but I still feel like Kalos just gets a little bit too much flack. As for the story, okay, so Kalos and X and Y, it's a little weird, right? Black and White probably has the best story of any Pokemon game next to Sun and Moon, I would say, or they're close. Sun and Moon has great characters. X and Y doesn't... It has, like, really cool lore with AZ and the war 3,000 years ago or whatever, right? And Team Flare is an interesting team from a concept standpoint. Their goal is to just obliterate everything, basically, and restart the world, which is really interesting. But outside of Lysander, however you say his name, outside of him, Team Flare has no characters that are memorable at all, and AZ's story just kind of feels a little incomplete. We never got that Floette event to happen, which I assume maybe would have had some more holes to fill in with that. Zygarde is just a huge question mark. I mean, everybody kind of just assumes Pokemon XZ or YZ or just Pokemon Z was supposed to happen, and I do agree with that because they just shoehorned all the Zygarde stuff into Sun and Moon. The story and its characters feel a little underbaked. And I'm really sad about that. I'm sad this game didn't get a sequel or an updated version because I feel like that would have really solidified it. You know, X and Y is the only game in the series that didn't get that chance of having an updated version. I guess Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet are just getting DLC, but you know what I mean? Like, I feel like once we get to the point where X and Y are either being remade or getting a new type of Legends game or something, we're really going to be able to dive deep into that lore, and I'm so excited for that because there's a lot of like great seeds planted for what could have been a very good story, but I think it was lacking in character and just actual execution. I love AZ, but I wanted to see more of him, and I think Team Flare is interesting, but there just wasn't enough interesting Team Flare characters that you can kind of get behind. I already kind of talked about it a little bit in the kind of pre-release section, but Fairy type is a fantastic addition to Pokemon. It's crazy to think that Fairy type wasn't even a thing. Honestly, it's been a staple of Pokemon for 10 years now, and another, like, what, 6 years or so, it'll have been a part of the series longer than it wasn't part of the series. Fairy just makes sense, and I'm glad they added it. A little unbalanced, certainly, and when I say a little, I mean completely unbalanced. Fairy was completely overpowered in these games, but they've somewhat rectified that with different typing stuff later on, right? But I love the addition of Fairy typing, and even at the time, I loved going back and seeing, okay, which Pokemon got that Fairy typing added on, and then when Pokemon Bank came out, it was nice to just have everything in there. So I like Fairy type, and Mega Evolution, once again, I listen, I know there are issues with Mega Evolution from maybe a meta standpoint, and I know people would probably prefer if they just had a new evolution for the Pokemon instead of like a little gimmick. But in terms of every gimmick that we've had for Pokemon since, which every game has had a gimmick, this is by far the best one. We actually get new designs out of it, and they aren't stupid. Gigantamax is fine, but some of the designs don't look great. Not that all Mega Evolutions look great either. I mean, what's going on here? But, I mean, I don't know. I like Mega Evolution a lot. I think more times than not, it is a very cool new version of a Pokemon that you probably already liked because they clearly went for fan favorites. So I love Mega Evolution, and just playing the game more from a casual perspective, it was just a lot of fun having Mega Evolution. Also, since it'll be 3 years until I make the Sun and Moon 10-year retrospective, I just have to say now, Z moves are really dumb. I do not like Z moves. So in terms of like the gimmick mechanic that we get now with each game, Mega Evolution is by far my favorite. And then this might be surprising, but the last thing I want to talk about in this video, and this is the main reason I love these games. I cannot stress enough how important the PSS is. Now, if you didn't play X and Y with friends, or if you didn't partake in the online features of Pokemon X and Y, this would probably be lost on you, which is why I'm coming at this video from solely my perspective. I'm not trying to convince you of, oh, you should like Pokemon X and Y now, because the experience I had in 2013 is different from the experience you could possibly have in 2023, and especially in 2024 when the online servers go down for the 3DS. PSS is essentially this online friend communicator app that would appear on the bottom screen of your 3DS, and it would show you all of your friends on 3DS. So if my friend went online, they would pop up on the PSS, and they wouldn't have to tell me that. This is such a good feature, and I'm so angry that it is gone in Sun and Moon. I cannot believe they removed it from that game. Festival Plaza is probably it's horrible. Festival Plaza sucks. And when they had PSS, which was such a forward-thinking design for making Pokemon X and Y more of a multiplayer experience, or just making Pokemon as a whole more of a multiplayer experience, because it was also an Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. Love those games as well. To remove it later just really irritates me, because it added so much to these games. Me and my friends every day for like really a full year, 2 years after following Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, we were on after school. We would see each other go online. We would hit our little icon and hit battle or trade. It just made the world feel so alive. You could send O-powers to your friends. I did a lot of breeding in this game, breeding for competitive Pokemon, so I would be breeding and my friend would send me an O-power, which would make my eggs hatch faster. It might sound on paper like a very small thing, and like I said, right now you can't really experience it the way I did back in 2013, but in the moment, the friend connectivity of this game, the online features of this game, were completely groundbreaking for the Pokemon franchise, and honestly, I still think they haven't really matched this. Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet kind of have a similar vibe with the raids and seeing like kind of people running around in the wild area, but it's not what it was. PSS added so much life to this game. Even when you were done the story, just hopping online and seeing your friends hit battle, like it worked so well, and it added so much to this game for me. On top of that, they also had the Friend Safari, which wasn't really connected to PSS, but if you were friends with someone on 3DS, you could then go to their Friend Safari, and you could get 6 IV Pokemon or 5 IV Pokemon. Really cool. You could get some, I think, older starters that way. Just a cool way to shiny hunt and get good Pokemon for breeding, which is, like I said, a lot of what I did in this game. And also, because I forgot to mention it earlier, this is the first game that had any kind of customization. Once again, that might seem quaint now, but being able to customize your trainer, even if they had stupid glasses on their hat, was just really cool. I mean, I love the designs of the previous protagonists in Pokemon games, but being able to design my own Pokemon protagonist for the first time and make it my adventure, which is something I almost never do in my games. I never name myself Bo. I always name myself whatever the default name is, right? Because that's just how I like to play games. But for Pokemon specifically, being able to make it my adventure and customize the character to somewhat resemble me, not really, with blonde hair and all that, really nice. I love the customization in this game. Honestly, I still feel like no game after this really matched it in terms of aesthetic, but obviously there are more options in other games. I don't know. Customization, maybe, like I said, maybe it seems quaint now, but this was a pretty big addition to the game. Something they revealed in the first trailer. I mean, the first shot we saw of this game was kind of confirming customization, I remember. So, all in all, my experience with Pokemon X and Y is unmatched. I will never probably enjoy a game as much as I did playing Pokemon X and Y in 2013. The lead up to release, that extremely exciting hype cycle of new trailers and information from Koro, into the release, into playing through the story, and then playing for months and days and hours on end with my friends, really with that PSS connectivity. Pokemon X and Y are, I don't think they're perfect games. I don't think they're my favorite Pokemon games, because I do think Pokemon Black and White or Black and White 2 are better games, but Pokemon X and Y will always hold that special place in my heart because I love them so much. So let me know in the comments below, do you feel similarly about Pokemon X and Y? I'm sure I will get a lot of comments disagreeing with this video because, like I said, it's the Pokemon cycle. I think people are starting to turn around on X and Y. I've always loved this game, and for the past, like, 6 years, I've just seen so much hatred. So much hatred for these cute little 3DS games, and I've never really understood it. I don't think they're perfect games or anything, but I think they are very good. So, like I said, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo 3DS content, Nintendo Switch content, and even maybe some Wii U content in there. I'm thinking about playing Pokemon Rumble U. Lord help me. Of course, thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, folks, peace.